I hit my burnout, and I was in the hospital, or was this, that, or this. It's not that that's untrue, but high functioning burnout is nobody else can see it, only you can feel it.
Hey, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited for today's conversation because I have brought you one of my biz besties and an incredible guest here on the episode. We had the chance of connecting earlier this year in a networking group that we're a part of. So, Ashley McDonald, welcome officially to the podcast. We are so happy you're here.
Yes, I'm so glad to be here and so glad to be with you.
Yay. Okay, Ashley, we're going to dive into some rapid fire questions. And I've switched things up on the podcast lately. We kind of lead with rapid fire so everyone gets to know you. But before we do that, your official title, what you do, what we're going to talk about today, you are a therapist and a nervous system first biz mentor. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but
It
everyone's
is.
going to learn exactly what that means as we dive into this episode. But let's get to a couple fun things first. Let's just dive right in. Tell me your biggest non-negotiable in your daily routine.
My morning, I wake up early to have time alone. I'm a mom of three. So
Yeah.
anybody who's a mom gets this. Like, I've got to have my mornings. I am a Fit with Coco enthusiast. If you've not heard of her, she's my favorite workouts ever. And so, because again, you might hear this, because we traveled full time and world schooled our kids for 3 years, I had to figure out how to be active and do so while traveling all over the world. And so I've been doing her workouts for forever. And so I wake up, I work out, I meditate, I shower, I read all before the kids wake up. And it sounds super cliche, like everybody says morning, but I'm telling you, like it's a make or break for me.
I love it. Okay, so what time do you wake up in the morning? Weekday mornings. How early are we getting up? I feel like I need to know.
Yes, 4 to 4:30.
Okay, next question.
Yes.
What time do you go to bed at night?
My kids go to sleep at 8. So I have a first grader, a third grader, and a fifth grader, and we do 8 p.m. bedtime. We just always
Yeah.
have, it's been consistent. And so I'm usually asleep by 9 because I
Okay,
go to bed and then I get in bed. Like I'm finishing up a few things and then I'm in bed.
oh my gosh. Okay, I was going to ask you early bird or night owl, but I think we just answered that question
Yes.
also.
I cannot, like 7 p.m. hits and I start to just disintegrate in like who I am as a person. And so the truth is, I don't even have an alarm. That is just
Really?
what time I
On
wake
your
up
own?
naturally. Yeah.
Dang, that is so
So
impressive.
yeah,
I
I
I
know.
wish I was an early morning person. Like I really, really wish that I just woke up and was like ready to do all those things. But I
No, I'm
am not.
grateful for it. I'm grateful for it most of the time. But like times like next week when I'm in Mexico for the
Yeah.
Mixed Mind retreat,
Yeah.
and I'm sharing a room with somebody, I have to have like an exit strategy whenever I sleep near anybody else besides my husband because he's used to me
Yeah.
because like I am like up. Like I'm up at 4 and I'm like the sun is shining and we're
Like,
like
let's
I want
go.
lights on. I want to party. Like I'm ready to go. And that can be really tough. Like I can't sleep in. And that said, that's also true for the fact that if I go to sleep late, like 11,
Yeah.
12, 1, I still wake up at that time. And then I feel
Yeah. Then
awful.
you need like 4 naps during the day.
If I could nap, yes, but I'm not a napper. It's not successful for me.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I know you've traveled all the places and you've done world school with your kids. I think when we first met, you were like, this is where I am. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I am temporarily. So, my rapid fire question for you is around mountains, beach, or city. But you may even have a better answer than that because you've been in all the places.
Yeah, I mean, my answer is all of the above, and maybe that's why traveling feels so good for me.
Yeah.
We officially moved back to Colorado, so that's where we live now, and we did that because of mountains, because I love hiking and I love adventure. And also we live in the city, like quite literally in the city in a brownstone because I love being in the city. New York is like my recharge favorite destination in the world, or Paris or London, like anywhere where there's everybody, take me there. And also, everybody loves a good ocean. Like that's my like reset. Like I recharge in New York,
Okay.
I reset by the ocean, but I revive in the mountains. And then you miss the jungle because my friend, I lived in
Oh,
Costa Rica, and the jungle is absolutely a place that just transforms you inside and out.
Oh my gosh, on my bucket list, I would love a little jungle. I'm a beach girl here in San Diego. I feel like by default, I was like born and raised beach girl, but I could do some jungle.
Good, good stuff. I tell you what.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, how you ended up doing what you're doing today. I feel like you've blended so many different things together, from therapy to psychology to business and mentoring, in a really unique and maybe different way than how other people are doing things. So, share a little bit about that evolution and what you're doing here today.
Yeah. So I started as a therapist. I got my master's in counseling psychology as well as sociology, and I immediately opened a private practice. I was always entrepreneurial at heart. Like that was just a no-brainer for me. So I had my private practice and had a ton of success in that. So I started consulting with other therapists who wanted to have private practices. And so then I
Mhm.
had quite a bit of experience teaching other people how to build a business. I also actually did a lot of assistant teaching in grad school. So teaching in general was just like a big part of my soul. I thought one day, and maybe still, I would be a college professor. So in addition to therapy. And then I had my first child and my private practice in having overhead and running a business, a brick and mortar business was like, I know this isn't working. I can't do this. And so I set that aside. I went into community mental health for a little bit, and that was a really challenging. I mean, as you can imagine, I was working with
Yeah.
court-appointed at-risk youth, and it was beautiful and challenging, especially with a new baby at home and just like, I just can't do this. And so somebody actually introduced me to network marketing. And so I spent 7 years in network marketing, building my businesses. I had two different companies that I was partnered with between that 7 year span and ton of success. I was very grateful for the opportunity. And eventually I had a couple more children. And actually, during the pregnancy with my third baby, I just kind of had this like, I want to go back to my roots a little bit. Even when I was in network marketing, I was, a master teacher and coach. I was speaking on stages and I was bringing the therapeutic aspect to it, but there was a part of me that like really missed that side. And so
Mhm.
in 2018, I went back to my roots and started an online business of what I'd called life coaching at the time,
Yes.
utilizing my expertise and my background. And kind of the same thing happened. I was really successful really quick. And so there was a lot of demand for me to then show people how I did it and slowly morphed into business mentorship. But I could never let go of the therapeutic side. And so now I work with women both in a therapeutic capacity if they're just simply looking for therapeutic support. But then I also work with them in what I call business therapy, where I'm helping them with the strategy that is, in fact, and not in the very trendy way that we say it, but the realistic, holistic way of looking at how your business might be trauma informed, looking at how the strategy that you're doing doesn't actually align with the values that you've set forth in your personal life and how to alter that and how to have success without sacrificing who you are and who you're meant to be in this world and to feel really, really good while doing it. And the truth is, most of us high achieving women are just full of trauma. And I say that with like so much love. But that's what I've come to realize. Like a lot of us are building businesses and doing things because there's some part of us that's desperate to be seen or valued or witnessed and desperate to be successful, maybe to break generational curses or things that we've experienced in our past. And while that's beautiful, we just can't simply ignore the meaning behind it and the importance of meeting that in the face.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So much to unpack here. I love that term business therapy because I
Yeah.
think many can really relate to that. And I know a lot of your work really talks about this idea of high functioning burnout, right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to like talk about what that means. Like, I mean, I feel like we've heard, we hear burnout all the
All the
time,
time,
but
especially now.
high functioning burnout, like what does that actually mean? What does that look like? And maybe different than just kind of regular burnout.
Yeah, so I think traditionally when people think of burnout, they traditionally imagine like physical ailments, not being able to get up, not being able to do anything, so exhausted. And we've heard those stories, right? Like I hit my
Mhm.
burnout, I was in the hospital, or I was this, that, or this. It's not that that's untrue, but high functioning burnout is nobody else can see it, only you can feel it. So you're the woman who is, or man, but I traditionally am speaking to women, right?
Yeah.
You're managing so much. It's the mental load, right? We all have it to some
Mhm.
degree, but it's essentially that you're always on. You never really feel like you can be off. Your mind is constantly moving a million miles an hour. Everything that you do, it has this underbelly of doing it for success, right? So I am doing breath work because I think it will make me more successful. I'm going to hire a therapist because I bet I'll have more success in my life if I did that. It doesn't come from like the actual art and beauty of like healing oneself or connecting oneself, because it's constantly about like getting to the top. And it's also, I think high functioning burnout often looks like if only I had, or when I had, like if only I had a bigger kitchen, if only I made more money, or when I, then I, right? And so when we live in that perpetual state of like what I exist within right now is just short of what will actually create contentment or actually create peace or actually create presence, right? And so it means we kind of live in this constant state of never enough. And
Yeah.
most of these women, I think, would articulate, and I've been there too, so trust me, like would articulate like their brain not shutting down at night, the feelings of inadequacy throughout the day, what we often call imposter syndrome, which is actually so much deeper than that, a misguided, like emotional, energetic field of like, I literally have no control of my emotions, or I literally have no control of my energy. And then, yeah, the physical symptoms can come as well. But traditionally, those with high functioning burnout are not just going to turn things off, or they're believing if I take this weekend or this one day off, it'll fix the problems. And they realize that the patterns are here to stay.
Deeper, much deeper. So interesting. So and you gave a bunch of examples kind of already, but when we're thinking about what this looks like in maybe our day-to-day lives, like maybe for our listeners right now, they're like, is that me? Is that, I mean, even for me, I'm like, oh, we're just going and going and going. Like there's so much of that resonates. How do you feel like it kind of subtly sneaks into your day-to-day patterns where when you're just on the go, maybe you're not even realizing this is what's going on?
Yeah. I think the best way to identify it is a value misalignment. If you are clear and if
Mhm.
you just take a moment to really look at like what are my values in life? And so often I'll have clients say like, "Oh, I value presence, or I value beauty, or I value, whatever." And I, with a lot of love, if I've been working with them long enough, will essentially say, from the outside looking in, it looks like you value perfectionism. It looks like you value a really busy schedule. It looks like you value, multitasking a million things at once. And so we have to be able to look at our lives and go, okay, so if these are our values, which traditionally they're not our values, they're our ideals. Our
Mm,
values are actually how we operate in our world. And so what
okay.
happens here is we can't just say, oh, I want to value presence, and so therefore I'll value presence. Whatever pattern has us living in a life where we're multitasking or going from one thing to the next or never really able to slow down, whatever value that is, and maybe it's like I need to be enough for everybody around me. Maybe it's perfectionism. Perfectionism was a big one for me. Maybe it's control, right?
Mhm.
That is the value that actually has to change in order to get to that place where you are experiencing life in that ideal way that you want to, i.e., presence or whatever the case is of what you're wanting. And so often it looks like value misalignment. It looks like your life, if you're taking a 30,000-foot view and you're being radically honest with yourself, it does not reflect actually how you want it to look. You are just kind of moving through every day as fast as humanly possible. And human being a really important word, like, how human is it? How sustainable is your life?
Right.
Like, if what you're doing actually cannot be sustained over long term, my guess is you are currently, not going to, but currently experiencing high functioning burnout.
Mm, so good. Okay. So I feel like sometimes we know that we go through busy seasons
Mhm.
or times when we're like, oh man, like I got this big event coming up or this big push to earn this thing. Or, we go through different seasons where we know that we're
Yeah.
probably taking on too much, right? We know that we're probably going faster than we want and we're looking for the break and when we're going to be able to kind of catch our breath a little bit. So
But
are
then
there
I
certain certain signs that are would be helpful for us to recognize, okay, this is a pattern. We're outside of our capacity that we can handle right now. How
Yeah.
do we pause? Like, first of all, recognizing it, but second of
Yeah.
all, how do we pause and like get ourselves back on track and get back into alignment or into balance? What does that look like?
I think when we're talking about capacity in general, the important thing is how often are you, and I'm going to say it, like chronically pushing back emotions or feelings that you have? Like how often are you telling yourself, it's okay, it'll get easier if I can just get through Wednesday, if I can just get through November? any of those kind of phrases that continuously come up,
Yeah.
it's actually very much a symptom of I can't do this that you're ignoring and you're going, it's fine, it's fine. I always think of our need as humans for self-compassion is so visceral and we don't provide that kind of self-compassion. So I try to imagine that my child is saying to me, "Hey mom, I'm really overwhelmed and it's like too much, but maybe it'll be better by Friday."
Yeah.
I would not say to my child, "Yep, probably.
Push
Good
through
luck with that."
Friday.
you know no, we would
Yeah.
address that. I would witness her. And so
Yeah.
oftentimes, more often than not, our internal like, oh, it's too much, or oh, I can't breathe, or those moments that we all feel like this is literally too much for one person, that is your inner child speaking to you. And the
Mm,
more often that you go, basically shut up, basically we don't have time for this, the more often you're cutting ties to your intuition. So what I find a lot of times when people come to me is they're like, I used to be like this in my business. I used to feel
mhm.
this kind of motivation or this kind of momentum, or I could do this, that, and the other thing. And I don't understand. All of a sudden, I can't. And it's because for so long you were overriding every internal instinct and every voice inside your head begging you to slow down. And now that inner child is like, I can't trust you. I can't tell you how I actually feel. You're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Right? And so when it comes to like, well, what do we do? Like, how do we address this, right? In simplest terms, I will say one, micro moments of stillness. I know that it's not realistic for any one of us to like take full days. And I'll tell you what, I took a 5 month personal business sabbatical a couple years ago. And while I lost 40 pounds and I had all these really beautiful health revelations, the minute I came back to business, not even the minute, I will say over time as I came back to business, the patterns that existed before just came back. Because what I did is I removed any sort of challenge, and that's not life. Like real life is not challenge free. Real life does have challenges, right? And I have 3 kids and I was traveling full time homeschooling them while building my business. So trust me when I say, like, I know what it's like to have so much on my plate. But if you
Yeah.
were looking in on my life, especially now, the difference that you would witness is me taking moments of solitude and silence and quiet stillness, even if just for 10 seconds, to recalibrate my nervous system and repattern that belief that I'm only going to be okay if I continue moving. And so the
Mm.
more that we kind of take these moments, like right when you came on, you're like, I just did all these interviews. I was like, how many times have you taken a deep breath
Yeah.
today? Because in
Right.
truth, what we often do, right, is we go for a walk, we do more movement. I'll take a break
Mhm.
and I'll do this laundry, I'll make some dinner, I'll make this phone call really quick, and then I'll get back to work. It is a constant doing because what happens is that we're all, and I say all confidently, struggling
Yeah.
with cortisol addiction. And so
Uh-huh.
we have become so accustomed to cortisol going through our system. And when we don't have these micro moments of stillness, we have learned that we need to constantly feel cortisol. So we are actually seeking it. We're creating this sort of self-sacrifice as we seek that. Or a lot of people, and I'm not on social media at all anymore, but a lot of people will turn to social media as a way of getting
Start
the
scrolling.
dopamine because we can't find the cortisol. I've stopped moving. I'm sitting down. I'm not working anymore, but now I'm scrolling because I don't know
Mhm.
how to exist without it. So I always tell clients, like, as simple as it sounds, micro moments of stillness. Literally, you have to retrain your body and your brain that you don't need to listen to a podcast when you're walking, that you don't need to be making phone calls while you do laundry. That the truth is, like, our brain does not have the capacity. Do we have the ability? Can we personally do this? Yes. But the question is, what does it cost us to do life that way? And whether it's research or hearing the story, whatever you have to do, I heard this one thing a long time ago that was like, if you stay in bed, if your alarm clock goes off or you wake up and you continue to lay there for a long time, melatonin will start to go back into your body because you're still restful, you're still laying there. Your body is going, oh, we're not done sleeping. And then you feel really tired the rest of the day. So I
Yeah.
learned this. And now I can't remember who teaches this, but I mean, it's probably very creepy if you're like in my bedroom. The minute I wake up, I'm like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I sit up.
Yeah.
That's it. I
Okay.
sit up because I want to make sure that my body doesn't give myself more melatonin and make me feel tired the rest of the day. I'm up, I'm up, I'm up, right? So
Yeah.
why I say this is because hopefully you can hear this and never unhear it. I can't unknow that that's the fact. And I hope
Right.
that you not unknow that like right now your body is so primed for cortisol and dopamine. And sometimes these can be positive, so I'm not saying that they're not, but micro
Mhm.
moments of stillness. I would also say that a lot of times high achieving women in particular tend to add versus subtract. So they're not feeling good, so they're going to add in a meditation practice. They're not feeling good, so they're going to add in, I walk now every single day 10,000 steps. They're not feeling good, so now they're going to track all of their food. I'm not saying these things are bad things, but
Yeah.
often what we do is add more and more and more and more, kind of like we talked about
Mhm.
before we hit record, right?
Yeah.
So often we're listening to podcasts, and podcasts are great. We love these. I have a podcast. I do
Yeah.
this too. We have to be mindful how much we're taking in information that's just going to add more to our plate,
Mhm.
because we really need to start looking at what we can subtract. And so I'm very mindful about, if there's something that I hear that I really love the idea of, I don't simply add it. I look at what I can take away first to replace it with. So I'm being mindful, because over time, if you're not aware of that, what happens? Right? Like,
Yeah.
things get really crazy really fast. If I decide, oh, I'm not feeling good in my body, I want to start tracking my food, that's a whole thing in and of itself. It's great, it's healthy, but something else has got to give. I am not a robot. I am a human. You're a human. We have to
Yeah.
treat ourselves as such. And finally, I would say, honestly, just naming the pattern out loud. In fact, I'm
Mhm.
coming to you fresh out of couples therapy,
Yeah.
and always fun. And we were having this, it's funny what marriage therapy really is, because a couple weeks ago, I went on a 24-hour trip with a girlfriend, and my husband took over the kids and stuff. And I'm so appreciative of that. And I came home and I had Halloween decorations up and they were on the ground. And I said, "What happened to Halloween decorations?" Well, what my husband heard, which I appreciate now that I understand, what he heard is, everything else you did wasn't enough. And I'm going to notice the one thing that's wrong. I'm logistically trying to be like, why, what happened to my Halloween decorations? Right.
Right.
But
Right.
to him, he really feels something. And so we've learned that rather than him, what he had done, and we're learning and we're getting better always, and we're 16 years in, still learning, okay,
Yep.
is he could have said, rather than, I don't know, and get frustrated and have all these feelings that didn't come up till therapy, he could have said, you know what, that makes me feel right. So in anything that we have, whether it's a relationship
Yeah.
with others or a relationship with self, there is power and awareness in naming. And so sometimes it's
Mhm.
just about really checking in with yourself in those
Yeah.
moments of like, wait, what's true here? Is it true that I can't close my laptop right now and be done because I feel tired? Like, is it true that my business will fall apart? Because that's honestly the biggest thing, is more often than not, we've got these narratives, these stories in our head that are so believable, that if we
Mhm.
don't stop long enough to go, what am I believing right now? And is it true?
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, I'll eat something and I could, if I stop long enough, I could have this voice that's like, oh my gosh, you just forfeited all the health that you've done because you ate that entire muffin in one sitting and you're a fat cow. And I don't really think of myself like that. But if I don't stop and go, is that true?
Yeah.
Did my one muffin change all the work that I've done in my wellness journey? Right. That's just a quick example, but it's
Yeah.
an important feature of it all.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you're saying, and the way that I'm hearing this, and I feel very seen right now, I'll just say that, is that these micro moments of stillness will give you an opportunity to identify what's really going on. Would you say that's accurate? Like that pause of like, what is actually happening right now? How am I feeling about this? Where do I like? I think that's what my biggest takeaway from what you just shared is those moments create the space
Yep.
for us to kind of figure out how to navigate or protect our energy or move into the next thing or change course or change the narrative.
Yeah.
But if we're not taking those pauses, and as we went to record, I was like, oh no, I'm good. I ate lunch and I went for a walk. I'm good, Ashley. Let's go. But what I think I'm hearing is that was not really a pause, that was adding, not subtracting or just being with it.
Yeah, yeah, and it honestly is very similar to what I have coined my somatic wealth framework. And it's a really simple three-step process that I still utilize all the time. And I've been a
Yeah.
therapist for 20 years. And it's essentially to regulate, reflect, rewire. Regulate, reflect, rewire. So when we regulate,
Mhm.
it's as simple as, everybody overcomplicates this. It's as simple as asking, how do I get out of my head and into my body? So before you do
Okay.
anything, right? Like it's, I need to go take a breath of fresh air. I need to
Mhm.
lay down. I got to get flat on the ground. I have to,
Mhm.
go, I got to go co-regulate with my dog or my husband or my child and just get a squeeze really quick. How can you get out of your head into your body? That's an important first step. So that's regulate
Okay.
first. Reflect is that self-compassion. So you meet whatever emotion is coming up for you with compassion. And so it might be like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And that self-compassion is, of course you are. Like 3 kids, you've made like 16 meals today. You've done 2 loads of you're running a business, you recorded 4 podcasts, like just to like meet it, because so often we skip that step. And what happens then is there's no self-trust. If we don't
Mhm.
trust ourselves to take ourselves to safety, we don't count on ourselves. And so we have to build
Mhm.
that self-trust with that reflection. And then finally is the rewire, which is to ask the question, what's really true?
Yeah,
What's
what's
really,
really true?
yeah.
Oh, I love that. This conversation, this is very tactical, but this was something that early on in my business I really struggled with. And it was when I was in the direct sales field and as a leader, having that constant pressure of feeling like you need to be on 24/7. Like literally my phone would ding and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is an emergency. Like, let me respond back. Let me solve the
Yeah.
crisis. Okay, now I can go back to my baby. And like, okay, I got this. I got to pause. And I worked with a coach and I remember her asking me, like, what would happen if you didn't respond to that for an hour? And it was that moment of truth where I was like, I mean, they'd probably figure it out or they'd be fine. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, but why am I defaulting to this like emergency crisis mode every time a customer messaged me or a team member messaged me and felt like this overwhelming, like I have to be available 24/7 or be connected, like having my phone nearby. So when you were talking about that, like what is real? In
Yeah.
my brain, I had told myself, I'm going to lose business. My team is going to hate me. I had all these crazy, irrational thoughts around what would happen if I wasn't constantly on. And then in that moment, and I couldn't figure that out on my own, which seems really silly to say out loud, but it was somebody else talking to me through, being like, I think like everything's going to be fine, even if you waited 8 hours to respond. Like, what if
Yeah.
you just waited till the next business day?
Yeah.
Do you think people, well, you're right. That's the truth there, that we're going to be okay. Everyone's going to be okay. So yeah, that story just comes to me as we're talking this through is that I totally remember that moment of feeling like I just always had to be available for everyone 24/7. And I think probably as high performing women, we do that naturally. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here. Hi.
I'm
What
going
do
to
you
call it
need?
as it is. Like, oftentimes there's some sort of traumatic experience that we've had in our childhood that told us that was how we're loved.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we always look at certain like shelter and these kind of things, but really it's belonging. And
Yeah.
so most of us and what we do is oriented around how can I belong? And our belief around how we do belong often comes from something that happened at a time that maybe we're not even
Mhm.
looking at. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, like a lot of times the ways that we're operating are because we
Yeah.
believe that this is how we can belong or this is how we can feel loved and be seen. And even that in and of itself isn't true. And I've lived it,
Yeah.
I've lived it to the point of like, oh, nothing does change when you make $500,000 a year. Oh, like
Mhm.
you still have to work. In fact, you might have to work a little bit harder on these voices and narratives and stories inside your head because I mean, I believe that money is simply an amplifier of what already exists in your life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's important to seek truth and to not push it aside continuously.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. So if someone's listening right now and they're thinking, okay, like I see you. Yeah, this is me. I may feel really overwhelmed and successful on the outside, but on the inside, I'm exhausted and I'm spinning, right? What are some of those first steps that you would recommend that they take to I don't know if you ever really like get on the other side of it, but like what would be the first step that you would take?
I want to address first the idea of getting on the other side of it
Yeah, I was
because
gonna say you're not really like it's not like an over.
yeah.
Help me
Well,
with the
and
right words
but
there.
also I think a lot of people do believe that it is, unfortunately. And we do, and I
Yeah,
know that I did. I lived in this like once when I then I like I'll get to this point, I'll finally heal this thing, or I'll get better at this, I'll be more present, I'll whatever the case may be.
yeah,
And the truth is, I think the most important ideology here that we can adopt is that it's becoming resourced for yourself. And that's a continuous thing. It's being able to, the specific things that I mentioned of those
yeah.
micro moments of stillness, of the somatic wealth framework, of
Mhm.
taking rather than, or subtracting rather than adding constantly, right? Of really like being honest and naming the pattern. Those are the steps and they
Okay.
don't go away. You don't get to the point where the box is
Yeah.
officially checked. And on that same note, I think it's really important to always speak to not being chronically in healing mode either, where everything revolves around trying to perfect this, which we'll just say is another wound that comes up. Being and treating yourself as a human.
Yeah.
I think it's like I think it's a phrase or something, but I'm not on social media anymore. So my cool factor is down so much already as a mom, but now I just like know nothing. But My daughter recently, as daughters are, she's 7, so she's really come into her attitude. We'll just say that.
Get a
And
little
she
sass coming.
is. And she was really upset with me the other day. And I looked at her and I said, honey, I'm just a girl. And she was
Girl.
like, what? And I was like, I'm just a girl who one day dreamed about being a mom and meeting a man and loving him and having a house. And sometimes I'm just figuring it out and I get overwhelmed and I get scared. And I sometimes don't know what I'm doing. And it's hard to know that because I've always been your mom, but I'm just a girl just like you. And
Yeah.
you could see her mind expanding. Like you could see her looking at me like, I mean, I don't know how much she really took in, but it took a
Yeah.
minute for her response. And that girl never takes minutes to respond. So
Yeah.
say that, and I think that's what I would say to every woman listening. You are just a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And like there
Mm-hmm.
is an inner child in you who's just desperate for belonging and love and affection. And in your attempt to find said belonging, you have snuffed her out. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
all that needs to happen is a little reconciliation between you and the version of you who is honestly breeding most of the behaviors that you probably don't love about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so good, Ashley. So good. I knew that this episode was going to be so good when we first started talking. And a little change of pace from maybe the typical podcast episode that we've had lately. So I think the timing of this is perfect in the sense that, like, people are we're ready to hear it. We're ready to hear it. But tell us, okay, I know you have a mini webinar, mini video series kind of thing for us. Where can we find that? Where can we connect with you? We're not on social media.
Nope.
So where can we contact you at 4 a.m. when you're awake? Just kidding.
Right? It's really funny because I was on a different podcast and it was a marketing podcast. So she's like, but really, like, how are you building your visibility now? And I
Yeah.
was telling her I do a lot more in person. I just kind of went back to like how business used to be when
How
we
it
didn't
was.
have social media, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. I like it. But I'm like, yeah, I'm at networking events. And she's like, and when people ask like where to follow you, I'm like, I just give out my phone number. And she was like, what? I'm like, I just have real connections. So it's really funny because now people are like, should I just put your phone number on the show notes? I'm like,
That
no,
is
not
amazing.
necessarily, but email me. And if you want to get
Email.
on the phone, I happily will. So email,
Okay.
I do have a podcast as well. It's called Shamelessly Ambitious. So I'm having all these kind of conversations over there. It's
Yeah.
my sort of vocal journal entry where I tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And it's saucy and spicy, and there's a lot of tears and also a lot of honesty, which I think is the thing that sets us all free. And then I also at this point, I'm just calling it a mini webinar. I do
Okay.
talk
Mini
about,
webinar. Yeah.
yeah, essentially being like the energy advantage training. But I really wanted to create something that was knowing the women that I particularly love to work with and usually need my services. We don't have a lot of time. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was like,
What?
there's so many things that I could do, but I essentially created a quick training that's less than 15 minutes that talks about why you feel exhaustion in your body and why, your values or lack of values is quietly draining your capacity, particularly telling you the 3 capacity leaks that I think every high achieving woman has, and specifically how to seal them and simple resets that you can do to not feel like every day starts and ends in exhaustion, and clear next steps on how to make sure that you, in fact, get to live as a regulated woman forever.
Oh, I love that. What a gift. Okay, we will link to it in the show notes
Yeah.
so everyone can get their hands on it. 15 minutes. I think we all can make time because we're going to subtract something. We're not just going to add. We're going to subtract too. So I love that. Thank you for your generosity and I'm so excited for everyone to dive into that and check out your podcast as well. Thank you, Ashley. This was
Yeah.
incredible and a great change of pace from some of our regular content here on our podcast. And I think so many today are feeling seen and probably learned a couple new things. So I might need to take a micro moment after this. I'm just going to say that.
I think it's a good idea. Pre going to help at the book fair, you take
But
your
I'll go.
micro
But I'll go to the book fair. Then I have one more call, and then I got to make dinner. But I'm
micro
building in
moment.
the micro moments. I like
That's
it.
why they're called micro, because we're talking 60 seconds, girlfriend. You don't
Yeah,
need all
we can do it. We can do it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Yeah.
Bye. This episode is sponsored by CintShare. CintShare is the #1 social media scheduler for direct sellers and loved by creators in any industry. It's truly your one-stop shop for all things social. Join hundreds of thousands of social sellers and entrepreneurs who turn to CintShare for free social media training and resources. Get started today with your free 30-day trial at moderndirectseller.com/CintShare.